Okay, let's jump over and talk about the Las Vegas Raiders and the New England Patriots. Now, I have to admit to you guys, the Las Vegas Raiders really surprised me on Monday night. There's some bogus calls, some good warranted calls as well that went against the Saints that kept the Raiders on the field a little bit more than I would have thought they would have been, but they looked good. They were able to, just constantly feed Darren Waller. The Saints just had no answer for Darren Waller. And of course, Drew Brees, that's a story for the next stream that we do where we talk about the Saints game. But the Raiders overall looked a lot better than I expected them to be. Now, this is a game on the road. They're going against the Patriots, who the Patriots also looked a lot better than a lot of people expected them to look in the preseason. So this is going to be a really, really, really good tell who these teams are. Because we've seen the Patriots, we saw them dominate the Dolphins and then turn around and play really strongly against the Seahawks. Barely lost that one. You have a better play call on that last goal line play with Cam Newton, and the Patriots would be 2-0. Whereas you have a 2-0 team in the Raiders that actually came out and beat the Saints. They beat both of their NFC opponents. Going on the road, what does this game look like? Going to be incredibly interesting. I have my take, and I might be wrong again, but we'll see. Patriots are slated to win this one by 6, giving us an implied point total of about 27-21 with that 47.5 over-under. Now, the Raiders have given up a lot of points to running backs, but that doesn't mean anything because they've faced Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey. And the Patriots have been pretty mediocre across the board in their defense. Obviously, last week, absolutely getting torched by Russell Wilson. Didn't really help matters much. So again, we're taking a lot of these numbers with a grain of salt because we only have 2 data points, not really much to go off of there. What we do know is what we've seen with our eyes and what we've already observed. Cam is a baller, and maybe Derek Carr is as well. So let's talk about it. I still believe in the Patriots defense, especially at home. I don't expect the Raiders to put together as much of a fight in this one as they did against the Saints. I could be wrong. But overall, the only guys I'm comfortable starting with on Las Vegas' side is Josh Jacobs, because you have to. I mean, he'd still put up a decent amount of fantasy points in a tough matchup against the Saints. I think he put up about 12 or 13 in PPR. You'll take that. That's a good floor. Probably hoping for something like that again. Maybe he scores a touchdown on this one. And then Darren Waller. I mean, there's zero chance you're benching Darren Waller at this point, especially after the way he just absolutely won you your week on Monday night last week. So those guys are locked and loaded. You have to start them. I'm not comfortable with starting anyone else on this team, though. Henry Ruggs barely got used in the game against the Saints after being used all over the place against Carolina. We saw Bryan Edwards get a few more targets last week, but that still wasn't enough for a decent fantasy game. Hunter Renfrow barely did anything. We've seen Zay Jones used in the end zone. We've seen Nelson Agholor get barely any targets, but he keeps scoring. I don't trust any of the receiving options here in Las Vegas until we start seeing some trends and consistency. Got to keep all of these guys on your bench. And there's no way I'm playing the Raiders defense versus Cam Newton. Even if the Raiders show up in this one, that just means it's going to be a higher scoring game. I'm just not touching that. On the Patriots side, we saw Cam Newton throw for over 400 yards last week. So anyone that thought that Cam Newton was washed and all he was going to be was just a running back, guy can still throw. And he actually has a pretty decent supporting cast here in New England that I don't think a lot of people expected. It's different supporting cast than he's ever had before. But Edelman is really good. White is kind of coming in. Harry is kind of coming into his own. So definitely starting Newton, definitely starting Edelman. Those are the guys locked and loaded. Have to get them into your lineup no matter what. And the Patriots defense, I still like. Again, game at home. I don't expect the Raiders to put up as much of a fight here. I think the Patriots defense can still put together a nice showing for you. And we've historically seen that Bill Belichick will come back and fight really hard the week after a loss. So we'll see if that continues in the Cam Newton era. But I'm just not betting on the Raiders much at all at this point. Now, you could talk me into starting James White if he plays, but at this point he hasn't practiced. We know last week with the unfortunate situation with his parents, I mean, he might miss again, and I wouldn't hate him. I wouldn't blame him for it at all because that's a really brutal situation. So monitor that situation. James White may be out again. If that's the case, you might be able to talk me into flexing Rex Burkhead in the most desperate of situations if you lost both Barkley and Mostert and you weren't able to get any of the waiver wire pickups this week. Burkhead might be a sneaky flex for you. Whereas N'Keal Harry has continued to see his target share stay high, but he's only been okay with that. So if the Patriots just dominate this game from the start and the Raiders don't put up much fight, there's not going to be as much passing volume. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's not going to be anywhere near the passing volume that we saw last week. N'Keal Harry was still just an okay start. So I'm probably going to still hold off on pushing him into my lineup unless you've dealt with a lot of injuries. So that's why he's in my second guess column. Again, when start Burkhead if White is out, potentially, but Michel just has to stay on your bench. Like, the guy is garbage at this point. It hasn't really looked good at all. I'm waiting for Damian Harris to come back. Hopefully Damian Harris is able to do something in this backfield. But I got the Patriots winning this one pretty decisively. I got the Patriots 28-17. We'll see if the Raiders put up a much bigger fight in this one. This will be the last time I disrespect them, I promise you. But let's see. Let's just see.